He told me the divorce was just pretend, a trick for the business world, and like a fool I believed him, until the papers became real, and so did his mistress. I still remember the way his voice sounded that night, smooth, persuasive, like velvet laced with poison. We were sitting in the living room, the city skyline glowing beyond the window, the world moving as usual while mine stood still. Adam leaned closer, his hand warm against mine, his eyes full of calculated sincerity. "It's just pretend, Clara," he whispered. "A game for the investors. Nothing will change between us." And I believed him. How foolish, how naive I was to believe that the man who once vowed to protect my heart would now ask me to gamble it like a pawn on his chessboard. But I trusted him, because for 12 years I had been the woman behind his throne. I had lifted him, supported him, sacrificed for him. And when he told me that signing those papers was for us, for our future, for protecting the empire he had built, I swallowed my doubt and handed him my faith, like I always did. I didn't even cry when the lawyers slid the documents across the polished mahogany table. My hands didn't shake when I signed my name, though a part of me felt as if I were slicing through my own soul. I reminded myself of his words, "It's just pretend." But then, reality showed its true face. It started small, like the first drops of rain before a storm. A photo surfaced online, Adam leaving a restaurant, Cassandra at his side. His hand was at the small of her back, guiding her the way he used to guide me. At first, I told myself it was business. She had worked for him, after all. He often met associates for late dinners. I closed my eyes and silenced the whisper of doubt inside me. But the whispers grew louder. 2 weeks later, a glossy magazine plastered their photo across the front page, "New Love. Billionaire Adam James spotted with stunning companion." The article described her elegance, her beauty, her mysterious rise from assistant to what they dared to call partner. I stared at the magazine until the letters blurred. Partner, a word that once belonged to me. I confronted him that evening, my voice trembling. "Is she the reason? Is Cassandra why you wanted this divorce?" His eyes flickered, just for a moment, before his mask of calm slid back into place. "Don't be ridiculous, Clara. I told you, it's business. The world thinks I'm single, so they won't target us. Cassandra is just convenient for appearances." Convenient, that's what I had become to him once too, hadn't I? I tried to hold on, to convince myself he was still mine. But then came the gala. The same gala where, for years, I had stood by his side, helping him network, whispering names and connections into his ear, smoothing his tie before the cameras flashed. That year, I watched from the shadows. My dress was simple, my presence invisible. And there he was, walking in with Cassandra on his arm. Her gown shimmered with silver sequins, her hand clinging to his like she had earned the right. And Adam, my Adam, smiled at her the way he used to smile at me, his gaze soft, proud, claiming her in front of everyone who mattered. It was then, under the glow of chandeliers and the hum of violins, that the truth hit me like a knife. The divorce wasn't pretend. His love was. I went home that night and collapsed onto the bed that still smelled faintly of his cologne. My body shook with sobs I didn't want to release, sobs that clawed out of me anyway. He had replaced me so easily, discarded me like a forgotten accessory, and the world applauded him for it. But somewhere between the sobs and the silence, something shifted inside me. A seed, a spark. I realized that Adam had miscalculated me. He thought the divorce would leave me hollow, helpless, clinging to memories while he built his new life. He thought Cassandra's beauty and youth would make me invisible. He thought the empire he built was untouchable, and that I was too broken to challenge him. But he forgot one thing. I was the architect of his empire. From the very beginning, it had been our dream, not just his. When he was a young man with nothing but ambition, I had been there. I worked late nights drafting proposals, crunching numbers, editing contracts. I rehearsed his speeches with him, sharpened his arguments, stood by him when investors slammed doors in his face. I was the steady hand that guided him when he stumbled, the anchor when he lost his way. He may have been the face of the empire, but I was its spine. And that night, as I stared at the city lights through tear-blurred eyes, I made a vow. I would not break. I would not fade. I would rise, not just as the woman he cast aside, but as the storm that would unravel everything he thought he controlled. It started with small moves. Phone calls. Quiet meetings. I reached out to the investors who had once trusted me, the ones I had nurtured relationships with while Adam was too busy basking in glory. They remembered me. They remembered my loyalty, my warmth, the way I listened to them as people, not just dollar signs. And when I told them my story, not with bitterness, but with honesty, they leaned closer. I wasn't out for blood, I explained. I was out to rebuild. To take back what was mine, what I had helped create, what I deserved. And one by one, they began to stand with me. Meanwhile, I studied Adam. Every deal, every venture, every handshake. Cassandra might have been beautiful on his arm, but she didn't understand the intricacies of business. She didn't see the cracks in his empire, the over-leveraged accounts, the unstable partnerships, the deals that looked golden but were corroded beneath the surface. But I saw them. I had always seen them. Every late-night conversation, every scribbled note in the margins of a contract, every instinct I'd once shared with him, I remembered it all. And now, I would use it not to build him up, but to tear him down. I became invisible in the ways that mattered. I let him think I was gone, defeated, licking my wounds. All the while, I pulled threads in silence, weaving a web he didn't even notice until he was already caught. And yet, in those quiet hours when the world slept, I felt the ache of what I'd lost. I remembered the man he used to be, before greed and vanity devoured him. The man who held my hand under the stars and promised we'd conquer the world together. But that man was gone. All that remained was a stranger who swore his betrayal was pretend. He thought my silence was surrender. But silence is strategy. And soon, he would learn that the woman he cast aside was not broken. She was reborn. He thought I was broken without him. But what he never knew was, I was the storm he never prepared for. When his empire began to fall, he didn't suspect me, not at first. He thought it was the market, the economy, bad timing, until the truth came crashing down, and he realized the one woman he underestimated was the one holding the match. It began with a single phone call. Adam's empire, so solid in his mind, so dazzling to the outside world, trembled the moment his most trusted investor withdrew overnight. I knew, because I made it happen. It wasn't rage that drove me to it, it was strategy. Years of listening, years of remembering, years of being invisible in rooms where deals were made had taught me something Adam never learned. Loyalty is earned through trust, not dominance. The investor's voice was calm when I asked for the favor. He remembered the nights I had spent on the phone with him and his wife, helping them decide whether to take a leap with Adam's small firm back when no one else would. He remembered that I never once treated him as a mere number on a page. And when I told him, softly, it's time to move your money elsewhere, he didn't hesitate. Adam stormed into that man's office the next morning, his voice echoing through glass walls, his temper spilling like boiling water. But no amount of anger could change the truth. Trust had shifted, and it had shifted toward me. At first, Adam brushed it off as a fluke. The market was volatile, he said. Investors get spooked easily. He went home to Cassandra that night, clung to her polished beauty, and reassured himself that his empire was still untouchable. But cracks have a way of spreading when you refuse to acknowledge them. The second crack appeared weeks later, sharper and deeper, a lawsuit. Adam had always walked the fine line between brilliance and recklessness. He loved shortcuts, loved the thrill of bending the rules and thinking no one would catch him. Cassandra adored that recklessness. It made him seem powerful, untouchable. But power without caution is fragile. And Cassandra didn't have the eyes to see the danger. I did. I knew which deal was built on sand, which contract was signed with a hidden loophole, which partner had been quietly simmering with resentment for years. All it took was one conversation, one push in the right direction, and suddenly Adam found himself drowning in legal threats. The news spread fast. Newspapers that once hailed him as a visionary now whispered words like fraud and collapse. His polished reputation, the armor he wore so proudly, began to rust in the public eye. Cassandra clung to his arm, still smiling for cameras, but her eyes darted nervously at the cracks widening beneath their feet. And through it all, I stayed quiet, patient, watching. Then came the gala, the very same ballroom where, months earlier, I had stood in the shadows, watching Adam parade Cassandra like a trophy. But this time, I didn't come as the discarded wife. I came as something more, something reborn. The moment I walked in, I felt the shift in the air. My gown flowed like liquid midnight, my hair swept back to reveal the calm strength etched into my face. Eyes turned, conversations paused, and for the first time in a long time, I wasn't invisible. I didn't search for Adam right away. I let him find me. He always hated being outshined, always needed to control the spotlight. And when his gaze finally caught mine across the room, I saw the panic flicker behind his carefully constructed smile. Fear, it was subtle, but it was there. Because he knew, somewhere, deep in the part of him that still recognized the woman who had built his empire alongside him, he knew I was the storm. I moved through the room like I belonged, because I did. Investors who once ignored me now greeted me with warmth, whispering their admiration, their loyalty, their promises of support. They weren't drawn to me out of pity. They were drawn to me because I had become the steady force Adam could no longer be. And Adam watched, helpless. Later that evening, he cornered me. His voice was no longer smooth, no longer confident. It cracked, raw with desperation. "What are you doing, Clara? Why are you doing this to me?" I met his eyes, and for the first time, I didn't see my husband. I saw a man unraveling, a man who had gambled love for vanity, and lost more than he could bear. "You swore it was pretend," I told him softly. "But the only pretend thing was your love. Everything else, my strength, my rise, your fall, that's real." His face twisted, half in anger, half in disbelief. He wanted me to deny it, to comfort him like I once did, to be the anchor he had abandoned. But I wasn't his anchor anymore. I was the storm pulling him under. Cassandra's hand slipped into his, her smile brittle as glass. I almost pitied her. She thought she had won, thought taking my place at his side meant she had inherited my power. But power isn't passed like a crown. It's earned in fire, in patience, in resilience. And Cassandra had none of that. In the weeks that followed, Adam's empire collapsed fully. Investors fled. Lawsuits multiplied. His name, once carved into the skyline, became a cautionary tale whispered in boardrooms. Cassandra's glittering presence vanished as quickly as it appeared. And Adam, the man who once believed he was untouchable, was left alone, stripped of everything he thought defined him. As for me, I didn't celebrate his downfall with champagne or parties. I didn't need to. My victory wasn't in his destruction, it was in my resurrection. I built something new from the ashes. My own company, my own vision. Investors who believed in me stood beside me, not because of Adam's name, but because of mine. For the first time in years, I wasn't someone's wife, someone's shadow, someone's forgotten partner. I was Clara James, leader, survivor, storm. And the most important lesson I learned through it all. That sometimes, breaking is the beginning. That sometimes, what feels like the end of everything is really the start of becoming who you were meant to be. Adam lost an empire. I found myself. And in the end, that was the greatest victory of all. He thought I was powerless without him. But the truth is, I was powerful because of me. And no empire, no man, can ever take that away again.